that was video of protesters demanding justice for a man's death on the New York City subway. 30-year-old Jordan Neely was a well-known Michael Jackson impersonator. He died on Monday in a subway train after another rider put him in a chokehold until he went limp. Now, Neely had been shouting and pacing back and forth, but according to witnesses, did not physically attack anyone. At least 3 people restrained him, while one man, a former U.S. Marine veteran, held an arm around his neck. Now, the 24-year-old, whose name has not been released, was taken into custody but released with no charges. The incident was caught on video, leading many to ask why there have been no charges. And I do want to warn you, this video is disturbing and tough to watch. All right, still with me, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Marie Pereira and criminal defense attorney Jeffrey Wolf. And Jeffrey, I'll start with you. This is a difficult one. Anyone who lives in New York, Marie, I know you do, so we'll get your perspective in just a moment, knows that this type of situation happens often in the subways in terms of you get the performers on there. Sometimes they can get a little agitated. Folks are on there, a lot of mental health issues. This has so many layers, but I want to get your initial thoughts on this case, Jeffrey.
Well, I think that the first thing that comes to my mind is that it's good that people are speaking up for him, because that's not something that happens a lot. Previous to George Floyd, people would have these kinds of things happen to them and it would just go away. And I've been doing this long enough that I have heard on more than one set of body cams, tell it to the judge, you'll deal with it in court, and we'll let them sort it out. People don't walk away from strangling somebody to death very often with law enforcement. I hesitate to say that it's because this was a homeless person with mental health issues who was a person of color that a white military veteran choked out. But I can't see any other reason that that person does not remain in custody and face charges. This is a situation where you don't sort it out with somebody going about their day, leaving a dead body on a subway. It is atrocious.
Yeah, it's interesting. Marie, I'd love to get your perspective. At the end of the day, chokeholds have been banned in New York, a number of major cities, Chicago, Philadelphia, I think Los Angeles as well, because they can be deadly. You don't know the response, but this is just a civilian. He's a former Marine. Everyone knows Marines. They're sort of your first responders. They may be trained to act initially. For the first time in listening to that video, I heard one of the men involved saying that he may have had a knife. I don't know that. We haven't verified that, but I thought I heard that. But I'd love to get your thoughts on this because it really intersects with mental health. They have every right to exist in the world, to move around, but also the safety of passengers are concerned. Your thoughts?
I am from New York, and I do ride the trains on occasions, and there is a lot of issues of mental illness. And I want to commend my co-panelists for saying what we all should be saying. You hesitate to think that his race and his mental status had something to do with it, but it seems like maybe it did. And it's heartbreaking to see that. Now, I want to reserve my opinion and say that, they are conducting an investigation. And I'm happy that there are video recordings, because what I'm seeing doesn't show a man who's scratching around and creating a risk to others. But again, I think we have to reserve our opinions because we don't know if he was threatening someone. And I'm sure that the police department will conduct an investigation to see if this person who put him in a chokehold had justification. Was he being threatened? Was somebody else's life being threatened to the degree that the level of force he expressed upon that man was necessary?
You know,
Investigations are in progress.
Fair enough. Quickly, I want to go to, I spoke to Dante Mills. He's a friend of Court TV, frequent guest. He's representing the family of Jordan Neely. And let's listen to what he had to say about this case as it just gets started.
I just can't understand from my initial view what gave this person the authority to put his hands on Mr. Neely and take his life. So that's what we're going to be investigating in this case. I want to see what the details are and then see how the district attorney moves, what they're looking at, and ultimately what they decide about charges for the person who did this.
So what's the next step for the family in this case for you?
To push and really make sure we have a full picture of what happened, make sure the district attorney has a full picture of what happened, and hold their feet to the fire as to what those charges should be if they come, and why or what their decision is based on. We want to make sure that this is evaluated fully and fairly, and that Mr. Neely's life isn't taken for granted, and that they're shown value here, that we're looking into this just because you were screaming on the subway or just because at times he was houseless. We don't want his life to not be counted.
Tons of issues. Our understanding is that, of course, the Manhattan DA's office is investigating and could possibly present a case to the grand jury next week. All right.